Hello and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. So we don't see too much movement, but Bitcoin has recovered a little bit. We take a look at that in a minute. Before we do that, because it's Sunday and because we're heading, towards the beginning of a new trading week. Not yet, but later. We want to have a look at what is actually coming up for next week in terms of, any events, anything that could shake up the market. There isn't really too much next week, but I want to point out a few things to you. So Monday, I don't think there is going to be too much here. Nothing really that would, that would really move the markets, in my opinion, too much. I mean, we've got pending home sales, stuff like that in the US. That doesn't really influence the crypto market too much. Here on Tuesday, we have Canada can usually be disregarded with regards to cryptocurrency movements, Europe as well. So it's mainly the US. That's typically what the market reacts to. We've got here CB consumer confidence. That is something that can certainly lead to a bit of volatility. I mean, forecast is 108.5. Last time was 107.1. If it's greater than the forecasted number, so if you see anything 108.5 plus, is typically good for the DXY, for the dollar, and it would therefore be a little bit bearish for crypto. Best example we've seen this week with PCE data, which came also in quite good for the DXY and let's say negative for crypto. So we saw a little bit of a drop this week, on end of the week. But besides that, here manufacturing PMI, also here forecast is 47.9. That is actually on Wednesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, we see a few things that could lead to some market movements. Tend to here on Forex Factory, I tend to watch for the events which are in red. But what I can say from experience, manufacturing PMI doesn't really move the markets too much. It's mainly, CPI, core PCE, inflation data, and the Fed interest rate decisions, and maybe if Jerome Powell has a speech. But other than that, there is not too much. Also, last time, for example, the FOMC meeting minutes, they don't really change too much. And they normally don't change the trend anyway. They just lead to a little bit of volatility. So yeah, let's take a look at Bitcoin. I will really only focus on the short term. Anybody who wants a little bit more background and also the 3 key scenarios, please take a look at the last video. It was quite comprehensive, really only in the very short term in this particular scenario in which we currently are. Of course, the other 2 are possible as well, but we are I don't want to repeat it again. I did that just a few hours ago in the last video extensively, so keep an eye on that video if you want. But here, yeah, we possibly moved up in 5 waves, came down, WXY pattern. So far, Bitcoin reacted to the 61.8 retracement, and one of the key support levels in our support box here, which is highlighted in yellow, indicates decent reward to risk, indicates, however, that probabilities are a little bit less clear. So, I'm not highly confident it will turn around here, but we should, as with every support box, at least see some kind of a reaction. So we might see that here. It turned around at this golden ratio level. Yeah, there is more Fib confluence. We talked about that yesterday down here, sort of in the region around 22,400 down to 22,180. There is really strong support there. In terms of Fibonacci relationships and a ascending trend line that's running up here. So that doesn't mean we have to get there, but it means if we get there, there will most likely be a strong reaction down there. But either way, we saw this descending wedge. Bitcoin broke out of it, and now we just need to watch. Yeah, some people ask me, how likely is it that Bitcoin will go below 23,200 again? You can't. It's impossible to say. It's just impossible to say. We can identify these turning points, and then it either turns around or it doesn't. Yeah, these are high probability turning points, so typically decent probability that the market will attempt a reversal there, at least to see some kind of a reaction, even if it's not going to be something, let's say, lasting. So let's just assume we are heading down for new lows now. Yeah, it's not what I currently see from here directly, but let's just assume we do. Let's just assume we come down in 5 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this was then possibly a wave 1, and we're going to see a reaction in a wave 2. Then you also oftentimes see a reaction to these support levels. That's why they are on the chart. They're not guaranteed to work out. Yeah, nothing's ever guaranteed in these markets. But yeah, that's sort of how it could work out in a bearish count. But I did show all that in the last video. I just want to visualize that you typically see some kind of a reaction to these support areas. And yeah, I mean, either the question is either you enter in these support areas or you don't. I can't pull the trigger for you. Someone needs to make that decision. This is also not financial advice. This is only where I think that such a count is finished and at least a cycle, and we can turn around. Now, they naturally have quite range, depending on what was the movement of the previous wave. I already trimmed them down as much as possible. And the dollar amount is quite large due to, or actually let's say the percentage amount. I mean, that's a 5% range measured from the bottom. It's actually not too massive for crypto. But that's what I mean, the dollar amount might be quite large, but actually in percentage terms, it's not too much because cryptocurrency or Bitcoin is very volatile. So you do naturally have extended Fibonacci ladders, okay? So yeah, but this is either it turns around here or it doesn't. It's all about wait and see. You enter these areas, either you trade a pullback or not. If you trade a pullback, these are normally the areas you can trade, or at least I would trade. Again, I did highlight that before, how to do that, how I would do that. It's sort of doing this. Yeah, scaling in with a small position size up here, more down here, and most down here. And then it's, depending on where we are in the cycle, you might want to get stopped out below this or not. But the idea is that you have the largest position size down there where your stop loss is located. So you have a little risk, okay? Still, even if you do this trade, scaling in doesn't mean even, you still need to make sure that in every single trade you don't risk more than 1 to 3% of your position. I mean, I would even see this as a single trade. It's just split up into different positions. Just be aware of that, yeah. And this is sort of catching the falling knife because we don't have a trend reversal confirmation. But it's not really catching the falling knife because you use Fibonacci support levels as guide. You use the Elliott waves, and you're basically scaling into an uptrend, right? Because while this is a short-term downtrend, all you're doing is you scale in to a pullback in a larger uptrend. So it's actually just a pullback trade in an uptrend, okay? So, that's sort of where we are. And yeah, this is sort of how it can be done. And then when it obviously rallies, you can scale in further. We've got an entire membership live stream how this can be traded. So it's too much for one video, but yeah, I know there is no way of saying this is now definitely going to turn around or not. I did highlight in the last video and videos that obviously first indication would be a breakout of the wedge that happened, and then further confirmation would be a break above the wave 4 high here, which we don't see on this time frame very well, but the high was around 23,340, which is, by the way, also the previous support level which was broken. So the moment we're not doing that yet, there's also not really much point in doing a micro count. I mean, you could argue that we possibly are getting a 5-wave move complete here. Those movements are in 3 waves, but it could very well be that we're doing something like a wave 1 with an ending diagonal. So for example, we had here a wave 1, 2, here maybe a 3, this was maybe a wave 4, and this is now a wave 5 ending diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe one more high, but this is really micro counting. What it's doing here certainly is ascending wedge, I would say, or is it a channel rather, which often happens towards these diagonals, right? And an ascending wedge, if that gets confirmed further today, I mean, it could also be a channel, but I would rather say maybe a wedge pattern, maybe really an ending diagonal in this wave 1, then you should see a pullback at some point. Now the key is, without the first strong pullback, it's basically impossible to say if it is moving up. Because if it now makes a higher low in a deeper pullback, let's say if it breaks out of this wedge to the downside and it does a deeper pullback but holds a higher low, for example, the golden ratio, 61.8 retracement at 22,936, then yeah, this is probably the best confirmation that it has turned around. Okay, that's my update about Bitcoin. I hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, please check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.